you wrote that you connected a reporter to Dr. Fauci via your secret back channel. What back channel did you have for Dr. Fauci?
Well, all these terms like secret back channel and the other one you mentioned were just jokes.
On June 28, 2021, you wrote, Peter Daszak emailed me and Tony congratulating Tony on standing up for science. That email fell into the hands of the congressman, probably via FOIA, of someone who didn't delete it, as I did, delete all of Peter's emails and others related to Origin. Mine was erased long ago.
Is it your view today that all laboratory-related origin theories of COVID-19 are conspiracy theories?
No, sir.
You wrote, we're all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we wouldn't put them in emails, and if we found them, we'd delete them.
Which are said to be QAnon. I don't even know who they are. I don't know how that happened. I didn't do it consciously. It's
Sir, I'm
confusing, and
sorry.
I tried to do it,
I just don't believe you.
You want to take the Fifth Amendment? I mean, you don't seem to remember anything.
Who's your FOIA lady? Is it Hillary Clinton?
On April 21, 2021, you wrote, I can either send stuff to Tony Fauci on his private email or hand it to him at work or at his house. Did you ever send information related to COVID-19 to Dr. Fauci's personal email?
I don't remember if I did. I may have, but I certainly told him some things that he asked me to tell him about the situation with Peter.
Thank you. On May 13th, 2021, you wrote that you connected a reporter to Dr. Fauci via your secret back channel. What back channel did you have for Dr. Fauci?
Well, all these terms like secret back channel and the other one you mentioned were just jokes. They were just, jokes that I made in dealing with Peter because he was under death threats and was very depressed. And it was sort of the group of people who were Peter's friends were trying to cheer him up by making snarky jokes and euphemisms that were, not true. But there was no back channel. The back channel was, the back channel to Tony was the same one that it applies to everybody. And may I say...
Which is? Which is what?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Tony does not want me to connect anybody to him directly. And with one exception, a couple of weeks ago, I never did. But the back channel was a regular channel within government where if somebody wanted to talk to Tony, I would tell them, we have a regular process here. It's called ODAM, Office of the Director AM Group, the inner circle. And the request to do something, it would be to talk to Tony or to give a talk or whatever, would go to this group, and they would meet in person with Tony every morning and say, we got a message that so-and-so wants to talk to you, or so-and-so wants to, wants something from you. And then he would decide.
That doesn't account for telling people that you're doing official business with that they should contact you on your Gmail.
That's true. I was just
and especially to avoid FOIA and to be able to potentially delete things you don't want in the New York Times, which was your comment. On January 18, you testified no when asked if you ever deleted anything from your official count that could be considered a federal record. Dr. Morens, are you aware that the destruction or attempted destruction of federal records carries a potential punishment of both imprisonment and a fine?
I was not aware of that, and I was not aware that anything I deleted, like emails, was a federal record.
On October 5, 2021, you wrote, Peter, I just got news that a FOIA picked up an email I sent you saying Tony commented that he was brain dead. I deleted that email, but I now learn that every email I ever got since 1998 is captured and will be turned over whether or not instantly deleted. On June 28, 2021, you wrote, Peter Daszak emailed me and Tony congratulating Tony on standing up for science. That email fell into the hands of the congressman, probably via FOIA, of someone who didn't delete it, as I did, as I did, delete all of Peter's emails and others related to Origin. Mine was erased long ago. I verified that today, and I feel pretty sure Tony's was too. Dr. Morens, did you ever delete or attempt to delete a federal record?
No, but let me explain why it seems to be discrepant. You can't delete an email from NIH, from an NIH computer system. They're all retained and can be accessed for any purpose, including a FOIA. Now, I don't know what they normally do, whether when the FOIA is required, how far back they go or whatever, but it's my understanding that if they want to, they can go back all the way to the beginning, maybe even I came to NIH in 1998. And at that time, when we came to when I came there in 1998, we were instructed to delete emails or to move them into PST files frequently because they jammed the computer. And so I got into the habit of every morning, looking at all my emails. And when I say email, I mean NIH email. Looking at my NIH emails, and some of them can be dispensed with quickly and then just deleting them. Other ones that I would need to keep or thought I might keep would be moved into a PST file so that my inbox wouldn't crash. And I must say, based on my understanding of what a federal record was, I truly don't think I have ever seen a federal record in 26 years of being at NIH. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize because it just never dawned on me. I've done work at the National Archives, and at one point about 10 or 15 years ago, I contacted a records person lady and said, I have some documents that could be something the National Archives would want. And she said, nah, I don't think so. You can destroy it. And I didn't destroy it. I still have it.
There's a difference between the federal archives and your day-to-day work as a federal employee, employed by the American people. You seem to know a lot about FOIA. You investigated FOIA. You talked to the people that implement FOIA. And you need to know, if you didn't, that it is a federal offense if you even attempt to delete something that would be considered for the federal record.
Is it your view today that all laboratory-related origin theories of COVID-19 are conspiracy theories?
No, sir.
And is it your view that evaluating lab-related origin theories is wasting time and being crazy?
No.
So can I ask, what has changed your perspective on these matters?
I don't think my perspective has changed, and I discussed this in my previous, in the...
I'm referring to thinking that they're crazy or a waste of time. Has that changed, or do you still think that they're crazy?
They were made when I was thinking I was communicating in private off the government record, not as a government employee, but as a private citizen. And it was the same thing of dealing with Peter and these people, of being snarky and sort of making, it was the coin of the realm to try to cheer Peter up with snarky comments and often profane comments. I apologize for that. I never thought, I shouldn't do that, and I never thought it would be entered, but put forward in front of the American people. I shouldn't have done that, obviously. I recognize that. I was trying to help a friend by cheering him up with black humor and things like that. I never thought it was crazy. I did, as you said, I did believe from very early on that the evidence suggested that the virus arose from bats. And the evidence also suggested to me that the possibility of a lab leak or an engineering of the virus was extraordinarily low. But if anybody, a reasonable person, thought, or disagreed with me and thought that it merited further investigation, it should.
You used your personal email to conduct official NIAID business, and you shared non-public information with EcoHealth, an organization that was vying for federal dollars from your agency. Given your position and experience, you knew that this was against FOIA regulations. You even indicated it in many of the emails in your personal Gmail. Can you explain why you chose to bypass official channels? And how do you justify that?
Well, let me go back to the very beginning. In early 2020, Peter Daszak, who's been a personal friend of mine for almost 20 years, I've had government interactions with him that would be on my NIH email, but almost all my interactions with him for years have been personal, as a friend. And suddenly he was getting death threats, credible death threats, and his wife and his 2 daughters are getting credible death threats. And the FBI was investigating, and they were publishing these death threat people, which are said to be QAnon. I don't even know who they are, but they were marching outside his house, and they were sending threatening things. An anthrax powder envelope was mailed to him, and it just freaked everybody out.
Why did you choose to use personal email?
Because that was not government business. What happens to a private citizen in a death threat situation, in my mind, is not government business.
Well, it is government business if you are advising him, you're advocating on his behalf, you're editing things, letters that he wanted to send to NIH. You did all that on personal email, correct?
I don't remember, but if I did, I shouldn't have done that. That's wrong.
On May 16th, we heard from your boss, Dr. Lawrence Tabak, regarding some of your emails and avoiding the Freedom of Information Act. And I'm sure as you've already testified, you're aware that deleting federal records is a crime. And as you've said, you previously testified that you did not delete any federal records. But on February 24th, 2021, you wrote, quote, "I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I'm FOIA'd, but before the search starts. So I think we are all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to Gmail," end quote. And the next day on February 25th, 2021, you wrote, quote, "But I learned the tricks last year from an old friend, Marge Moore, who heads our FOIA office and also hates FOIAs," end quote. Yes or no, is Marge Moore the FOIA lady you were referring to?
She was at the time. I believe she's retired since then.
Did the NIH FOIA office instruct you on how to delete emails or avoid FOIA?
No.
On October 25th, 2021, another scientist wrote, quote, "David is concerned about the privacy of text and other messages from his cell phone to you and me because he has been using a government phone. This came from Tony," end quote. Sir, did you ever have any conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding using personal phone or email to communicate with Dr. Daszak?
I don't remember it. It's possible. I probably wouldn't have remembered it, and I don't remember it. He and I usually never talked about that kind of stuff. It would be very unusual if it happened.
On January 18th, you testified that you did not have any conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding EcoHealth. On October 25th, 2021, you wrote, quote, "Peter, from Tony's numerous recent comments to me, they're trying to protect you," end quote. You meaning EcoHealth and Dr. Daszak. Dr. Morens, did you ever have any conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding EcoHealth?
Well, the ones you just mentioned, I don't have any recollection of that.
No recollection?
No recollection, no. Let me just say, what I do remember is one time in a face-to-face meeting, he referred or alluded to some stuff that was in the press. I don't even think he said what it was, but it was about, I assumed it was about Peter's grants and press reports about it, and the ending of the grant. And I said to him, sort of out of the blue, guessing what he was really thinking, I said to him, "Tony, I know you would have never been involved in getting rid of that grant." And he didn't respond. He just sort of looked at me and...
So Dr. Fauci was always a big defender of EcoHealth and their right to receive federal funding?
I can't speak for him. I think he had great respect for them, and when the grant problems came about, I think he was troubled by it. In fact, I just thought of something that I'd forgotten to say. At some point, somebody, it may not have been Tony, but it might have been Hugh Uppencloss, somebody said to me, Peter's his own worst enemy because he made some mistakes on that grant.
I would say that's a factual statement. On April 21st, 2021, you wrote that Dr. Fauci is, quote, "too smart to let colleagues send him stuff that could cause trouble," end quote. On June 16th, 2020, you wrote, we're all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we wouldn't put them in emails, and if we found them, we'd delete them. Now, did you ever have conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding deleting emails?
I don't remember any such thing.
You don't remember?
No, sir. And it would be very, Tony and I don't have those kind of conversations.
Did you ever delete any official records?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, but again, we're at the issue of defining what's a federal record. I deleted a lot of emails. I do it every day. But in my mind, they're trivial things not related to government business.
In response to my questions, Dr. Back said he absolutely agreed with every compliance action the NIH took against Dr. Daszak and EcoHealth. And over the past 2 weeks, both EcoHealth and Dr. Daszak have been suspended from receiving federal funding, finally, and proposed for debarment. Do you agree with NIH's actions against EcoHealth?
You know, I don't know the details I've never seen the grant. I don't know what's in it. I can't really speak to that, but I can say I've known Peter Daszak for almost 20 years, and in my personal opinion, he's an honorable, decent.
So have you had conversations with Dr. Daszak about this recent suspension?
Not a conversation. I knew about it. He sent me an email or something. It was a press
So they
release.
occurred over email? You and Dr. Daszak communicated via email about his disbarment?
I should say Gmail, not NIH
thing.
email. He doesn't send, you know, he was sending NIH stuff to my NIH email for a long time, and I kept telling him, don't do that. And that's how this Gmail thing started. He sent me, in 2020, he sent a message to me on my government NIH email, and I forget what it was. Maybe I never knew what it was, but eventually that email was FOIA'd.
Okay.
So wait a second, can I finish?
Go ahead.
Eventually, this email was FOIA'd, and Peter contacted me and said, you know, some friend you are, I send you an email with all my personal stuff, and it ends up in the newspaper. And that really struck me. That was a turning point for me, because he was under death threats. And
Right, and I get it. Mr. Chairman, if I may, just one last yes or no question. Have you had any conversations with Dr. Daszak about this suspension, yes or no?
The suspension?
The suspension of the disbarment, the suspension.
Not conversation, but he has sent me an email with.
Well, email's a conversation via email then. You've had a conversation via email with Dr. Daszak.
Well, if you call it a conversation, yes. It's, you know, we didn't talk about it, but he just sent it to me, and I read it or not. That's all.
Thank you.
Next email. With the help of our IT folks, I went over the whole computer and phone situation. Basically, my Gmail is now safe from FOIA. Thus, it should be safe to communicate safely with you, Peter, and others as long as we use my private email, Gmail. I ask you both that nothing in large letters, cap letters, gets sent to me except to my Gmail. Sir, I believe you have lied here today to us, to Congress, when you say, oh, I didn't know this, I didn't intentionally use my Gmail. Are you kidding me? Dr. Morens, do you want to change your testimony?
No, I don't, because I think that the context, all these, there's so many of these emails you just mentioned, I can't even remember them all, but the context is that this Gmail communication thing was set up purely to deal with personal things that were not government business. And then other people.
Sir, with all due respect, how can you say that when you clearly, in all these emails were intentionally avoiding FOIA? You said it in your own words, sir.
Well, but so let's talk about what you mean by intentionally avoiding FOIA. I don't consider that telling them don't send me things because they could get FOIA'd is intentionally avoiding FOIA, because those are personal things. And with respect to my NIH email, I couldn't possibly avoid FOIA because I had no control.
Sir, did you use in most of these emails your official signature? It said, David M. Morens, OD, NIAID, NIH. These were official.
Well, let me tell you something else I didn't mention.
And you forwarded from your NIH email to your personal email, and you said it right in your email.
I learned only about a year ago that the fusion of my Gmail on my email and my email, NIH email on my phone, had another side effect too. And by the way, I finally got IT to take that off, to get rid of it, so there's no more Gmail email fusion. But after I asked them to take it off, I realized that if a Gmail or NIH email came to me and I replied to it, for some reason there was a default where the signature I had on Gmail, which said David Morens of Bethesda, Maryland or something, didn't go out, but the NIH email went out. I don't know how that happened. I didn't do it consciously. It's
Sir, I'm
confusing, and I tried
sorry.
to do it
I just don't believe you.
Much of your personal email account exchanges have been revealed, as we all know, by media outlets across the country in recent months, and many more have been turned over to this select committee. And Dr. Morens, it appears that you yourself didn't even follow your own guidance. At least that's what I've come to believe here. And you've conflated personal and professional matters on both your official and your personal email accounts. That is correct, isn't it?
I don't exactly know what the word conflated means, but mixed them up. Is that what it means?
Well, you want to take the Fifth Amendment? I mean, you don't seem to remember anything. And I find that amazing.
And your statement today still is that you did not intend to avoid FOIA,
Yes, sir.
in spite of the several emails we have saying otherwise. Is that correct?
I think it's correct, but I'm not, there's some elements of this, that I don't think are being understood.
You said a comment earlier that concerned me. The relationship between your organization, NIH, and Echo Health should be one of oversight. And you said, to start off this hearing, you said, we all felt it was our job to cheer Peter up. I'm just really concerned because Peter even admitted the last time that he did not do a good job of overseeing the grant that went to the Wuhan lab. It's clear that our government did not do a good job of overseeing Echo Health. And it, to me, speaks to the culture that is at issue here when you think your job, instead of oversight, is to make sure that we're cheering up the people we should be overseeing.
We also have statements concerning the NIH, NIAID, and FOIA's officer instruction on how to avoid document production through intentional misspellings of keywords to avoid triggering hits in automated search queries in response to FOIA requests and congressional oversight inquiries. Dr. Morens, do you deny these statements?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I followed everything you said. I'm also getting a little echo from your side, but let me move away from let me turn off the microphone.
May I reclaim that time that I'm going to repeat, please? Thank you. We have statements concerning the NIH, NIAID, FOIA officer instruction on how to avoid documents production through intentional misspellings of keywords to avoid triggering hits on automatic search queries in response to FOIA requests and congressional oversight inquiries. That you had these secret back channel ways to get a hold of Fauci, that you were trying to avoid queries through FOIA by misspellings and other things. That's what we have come to the conclusion on. Do you deny that? Microphone.
Microphone.
I think there's some misunderstanding here. The secret back channel joking terminology, to my knowledge, was never about FOIAs.
So you're going to joke about back channels to Fauci and about misspellings on queries. That's a joke. Not very funny to me.
I would have to see this communication. It's confusing to me because I had no back channel. I could walk into Tony's office and talk to him anytime I wanted. There's no need to have a back channel. And I had face-to-face meetings with him all the time. So, the back channel thing.
So you deny these statements is what you're saying?
I think there's a mix-up somewhere.
Did you ever edit a letter Dr. Daszak sent to NIH in response to a compliance action?
Well, I must have. I don't remember it, but I saw such a letter. I don't know what it was, but apparently I helped him do it. But
did you ever edit a press release that Dr. Daszak issued in response to a compliance action?
did I send a press?
Did you ever edit a press release that Dr. Daszak issued in
The fact that you're
response to a
asking me,
compliance
yes, I
action?
must have, but I don't remember it.
Did you ever advocate on behalf of Dr. Daszak to EcoHealth's board of directors?
I sent a letter to Nancy Green, the head of the board of directors, essentially saying, you know, my personal knowledge of Peter. Shall I wait a minute?
Go ahead.
This was in response to Peter saying, you know, the board is worried that about all these accusations against me, I could be fired. Can you tell the board that I'm a good person and, you know, as far as you know, I'm an upstanding guy? And I did that, but as a private citizen, not as a representing NIH.
Dr. Morens, who's your FOIA lady? Is it Hillary Clinton? You're welcome.
Thank you for the humor. I think, you know, you said about 10 things there, and my brain can't keep them all in my head, but I think I've answered a lot of those questions. That the FOIA, I told you who the FOIA lady was. I told you what she told me. I told the committee that it's impossible to avoid a FOIA, and it's impossible to destroy an NIH document, an email document.
Well,
Impossible to do it.
Clearly, because we've got your emails, and they're pretty shocking.
There you go.
I do appreciate humor as well, but you do receive a taxpayer paycheck, and when it comes to work emails, there's a lot of things that shouldn't.
By the way, if I understood what you just said, let me just say that a lot of government emails come to my Gmail. Stuff from CDC, my paycheck.
This is all related to your job, though, regardless of which email account. Like I said, Hillary Clinton had a private server as well, and she put a lot of things there, and somehow they disappeared. Dr. Morens, you also wrote on October 5th, 2021, Peter, I just got news that the FOIA picked up an email I sent you saying that Tony commented he was brain dead. Jokingly, of course. However, Ron Johnson is all over it, and now after me. Tony will be pissed, rightfully so. I deleted the email, but I now learned that every email I ever got since 1998 is captured and will be turned over whether or not I instantly deleted it. Gmail, phone, text, I need to scrupulously rely on those exclusively. On July 22nd, 2020, this one was actually pretty interesting. I am actually imbibing a double, or is it a triple, martini at the moment. Not sure of the amount of ETOH because I just poured until my elbow got sore. But the olive at the bottom is hard to see. No hot tub in my condo. I tried to negotiate a jacuzzi, but they balked and I caved. In any case, now that I am divorced, what good is a hot tub or jacuzzi? If I am lucky enough to find a girlfriend, I will spring for a jacuzzi, upgrade my wine cooler, get a mattress that will take more of a pounding, and stop working so hard. In the meantime, I will work at my job of trying to make the boss look good. In the summer of 2020, COVID was raging. And I personally believe that Peter Daszak at EcoHealth had a lot to do with the fact that COVID was raging, because experimenting on viruses that turn into basically a monster that has murdered millions and millions of people is something to take very seriously. I have one more question for you. This is where you emailed and talked about kickbacks. This was on August 27th, 2020, after you were talking about covering up for Tony. You said, of course, there's a kickback. And then you also referenced a kickback on August 27th, 2020. You said, do I get a kickback? Too much fucking money? Do you deserve it all? Let's discuss. Have you made any money off of EcoHealth, off of COVID-19, and off of COVID vaccines, Dr. Morens? Then what were you talking about with kickbacks? That's not a joke. You were talking about kickbacks, and this is something that's very serious. As I said, millions of people died, and millions of people were forced to take a vaccine they should have never had to take against their will.
You wrote to Dr. Daszak in an email titled, "For urgent review, questions raised by EcoHealth Alliance grant proposal." You wrote, "Do not worry. Behind the scenes, NIH is sticking up for EcoHealth." That's a quote. and proceeded to forward internal NIH communications to Dr. Daszak. What did you mean by saying that the NIH was sticking up for EcoHealth behind the scenes?
You know, I don't remember specifically, but I felt
Sounds
that way.
nefarious, doesn't it?
It sounds what?
It sounds like it's suspicious. It sounds nefarious.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
It's concerning, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't
Were
know
you
why-
regularly colluding with Dr. Daszak in order to promote EcoHealth in the NIH?
Did I collude with him?
Yeah, that's my question.
No.
Is using an unofficial email address to provide grantees with non-public information about grant consideration consistent with NIH standards of review process?
You know, I think what I was referring to is stuff that was in the public domain. There was a newspaper story.
Why would you use a private email to do that?
Because, you know, at one point I stopped communicating with Peter and the others on anything but Gmail.
Why would you do that?
Well, I've already explained that, because things that they tell me that are private things could get, you know, get into the public domain if they send it to my...
Well, you said it was in the public domain. Is personally editing grantee responses to NIH compliance efforts, as you did with letters EcoHealth sent to NIH, consistent with NIH and NIAID standard compliance process?
It's probably not. I'd have to go look at it and, you know, I don't remember
It
any of it.
certainly is not.
If there's no further business, without objection, the Select Subcommittee stands adjourned.